about America and Americans. So I asked my students to write down what they know about America and what they want to know on a piece of paper. I collected them, I read them, and I said I should do a presentation on this and answer their questions, fix some misconceptions, meaning some misunderstandings. So the purpose of my presentation today is to clear up some misconceptions about America and also to share some of my personal experiences in and about America. I'm going to start with some information about America, and then I will continue with family, education, culture, stereotypes, and finally I will finish with Turks and Muslims in America. So let's start with some information about America. Before it became the land that we now call America, many Native Americans lived on the land, as we know. And in around 1607, the first British settlers came to the land. Shortly after, people from France, Spain, the Netherlands, and other European countries started to immigrate to America. By 1733, there were 13 colonies in America. In 1775, these 13 colonies got into a war with Britain. They wanted to be free. And in 1776, on the 4th of July, the Declaration of Independence was signed. America had won the war, and now they had become independent from Britain. I don't like history, so that's all the history from me for now. First of all, I'd like to say there are 50 states in America, and the capital is Washington, D.C. The population is around 319 million people. It's a very big country. Now I'd like to give you some information about the American flag. The flag has 13 stripes, representing the 13 founding colonies. And it has 50 stars, representing the 50 states. And the colors are red, white, and blue. Red symbolizes courage and strength. White symbolizes purity and innocence. And blue represents justice and perseverance, which means not giving up, even with challenges ahead of you. So, one of the issues that I have questions about the most are family. Before I start talking about family in general, I'd like to give you a little bit of information about my family. So this is my family. That's my dad, Don. He is from Alabama in America, which is a southern state. Do you know anything about Alabama? Maybe, maybe not. Yeah, they have cowboys and farmers, and there's country, very country. So this is my mom, Indian, and she's from Denizli in Turkey. Yeah, surprise! And she's a teacher in a university in Izmir, and she's also a translator. So my dad, he was stationed to Turkey once, and station means he had to come here for work. And that's where he met my mom, in Izmir, on a public bus. How romantic. Shortly after, I was born, and then we were stationed to North Dakota in America, which is very cold. It's close to Canada, it's on the north. And that's where my middle sister Melissa was born. And then a few years later, we were stationed to Naples in Italy. And that's where my youngest sister Sarah was born. Very international family, very cultural. When we were in Italy, my father retired, and we said, should we move back to America? Should we stay in Italy? Should we go to Turkey? Where should we go next? And my family and I, we all decided that we should come back to Turkey. So now, my mom, my dad, and my sisters, all of them live in Izmir. I was also in Izmir with them for the past few years, until I recently moved to Istanbul too. So that's enough about my family. I'll give you some more details later. Now I'd like to talk about some of that people have asked me or that people believe in. For example, the first one I'd like to talk about is people believe that American families aren't very close. They're very distant. They believe in individualism. They also believe that teenagers are free to do whatever they want. And they also believe that they all wonder why parents choose to send their children to study university in different states. So about the first one, it's not completely true. As I told you before, America consists of many different cultures. And some of the cultures are more close to their family. For example, Italian Americans are generally a lot closer to family, whereas Americans from a Russian descent are a little more distant. It also depends on where you live in America. So people who live in calmer cities or less populated cities, same as in Turkey, are a little more connected to family. But in big cities, yes, individuality is a little bit more important. So what I'm saying is, this is true, but only in some situations, not in all. For example, my family is very close. The second thing I want to talk about is teenagers are free to do what they want. This is not true, but it's a little complicated because the culture in America and Turkey are very different. What I mean is, in America, at the age of 16, students can get their driver's license. And when they start studying university, they usually have a part-time job. So a teenager who has a car and a job and money, of course, is a little more free, a little more independent than some of the Turkish families here, of course. But again, that's not all families. And the last thing is parents send their children to study university in different states. This is true if the family has a good financial situation. Because education in America is not cheap. And I will discuss this soon, okay? So here's another photo. That's me in the green dress. These are my cousins and my grandparents. The reason I chose to show you this photo is to show you the vehicle behind. That's a motorhome. It has a kitchen, a shower, a living room, a bedroom. It's like a house, but with wheels. My grandparents used to have a horse farm. They sold it and bought this because my father's siblings live in different states, in different parts of America. They bought this so they could travel and they could visit their children and grandchildren as often as possible. They've even been to Turkey to visit us several times. So this is just my example of showing not all American families are cold or distant from their family. So talking about education a minute ago, I'd like to talk a little bit about the education system in America. Honestly, I went to military schools in America, so I don't know how the general system is. But I suppose everyone is more interested in university admission anyway, right? I hope. So, university admission in the US, universities have different evaluation criteria. They all have different evaluation criteria. So, similar to YGS in Turkey, we have the SAT exam, which is critical reading, writing, and also mathematics. Other than that, just like in Turkey, we have the high school grades. But a couple of the other things are different. Some universities might want you to have an interview, like a job interview. Some universities might want you to write an essay. Some universities might need a recommendation letter from one of your teachers. But one thing that is most different from the Turkish system, in my opinion, is extracurricular activities. That means, do you do any sports? Do you play any musical instruments? Do you have any artistic talents? Most university in America needs you to do at least one of these things, and it definitely gives you higher points. So you can have a higher point than someone else from your SATs, but if they have more extracurricular activities, they can get into the university instead of you. Another thing I want to talk about is tuition, which means the money you need to pay for university. Tuition in America is very expensive. We have private and public schools too, but public schools are also very expensive. The average public school fee, tuition fee, is around $24,000. That's around 67,000 Turkish lira for university. It's very expensive. But you have other options. For example, students can get academic or sports scholarships or for other talents. You know, a minute ago, I said extracurricular activities are important. In high school, if you did basketball and you were successful, you can choose a department or you can choose a university that has a basketball team, apply, and sometimes you can get a scholarship just for studying, just for being successful in basketball. But you need to join the team, of course. Another option is some religious schools don't have tuition. And also some universities have work and study programs. So you can work on campus and make enough money to pay for your tuition. And as I said before, studying in the same state that you live in is a lot cheaper. You know, I said the average tuition is around $24,000. If you study in the state that you're from, the state that you live in, it can go down to $9,000. Or in some situations, it can be less or even free. It depends. So next, you will be very surprised. Did you know that there are over 160 Turkish-founded schools in America? For example, there's the Taka Atatürk School in Chicago, or the New York Atatürk School in New York, founded by the Turkish Women's League of America. There are also opportunities to study Turkish or even Ottoman studies in language schools or in universities such as Harvard. Harvard has a Turkish and Ottoman studies department. I was going to show you some of the other departments, but I think we should not go too much into detail for now. Next thing I want to talk about. In university life, many students in Turkey live with their family, live with their roommates, or live in a dormitory, right? In America, we have something similar to a dormitory, but I will explain some of the differences now. Fraternities are for all boys, sororities are all girls schools, are all girls dorms. Both of them are similar to dormitories. The way they are different is you can live there, but you don't have to live there to join. So it's like a dorm club. They're social clubs, so they organize activities, events, tours, parties, and usually in the films we always see the parties they prepare. So it's run by the students and the alumni, which means the graduates from this school. They also have Greek letter names, and this is because in 1776, the first Greek university group formed the first fraternity. So since then, it's become a tradition, and most of them have Greek letter names. And finally, admission is generally by pledge or vote. And what is this? So usually, imagine there's like a welcoming party, and you want to join this fraternity or sorority. You come and you meet all the people that are in the dorm already. And after this meeting, you have name tags and everything. After this meeting, they vote who they want to join the team, who they want to join their dorm or fraternity or sorority. So this is like the culture of university life in America. Now let's talk a little bit about generally American culture. One thing that drives me crazy is when people say, "Hocam, American history is so short. How can it have a culture?" You are completely wrong. America does not have one specific culture, but it is formed of many cultures combined. So, in the past, people used to liken America to a melting pot, like a soup. They used to think all these cultures come together and they make like a soup. So it's one culture, American culture. But nowadays, it's more likened to a salad bowl. So like a salad, the other parts, the other ingredients, which are cultures, come together, but they protect their cultural characteristics. They protect their identity in America. So I want to show you some pictures now of some neighborhoods that have been able to successfully protect their cultural identity in America. In this picture, it looks like you were in China. All the signs are Chinese, the restaurants are Chinese. Almost everyone who lives there is Chinese. I've been there and I couldn't find anyone to speak English to. It was crazy. So there are 22 Chinatowns in the US. And look at this population. Over 522,000 people live in the New York Chinatown. Here's a picture of Greektown in Chicago. We have Mexican Town in Detroit and Little India in New York City. So as you can see, America does not have one single culture. America has many cultures combined. And for me, that is what American culture is. Diversity, variety. So, about after culture, one important thing that defines our culture are the stereotypes. So you know, in Turkey, there's a stereotype of the loss, right? He says, "Uy, Ushom," he has a big nose, plays kemanche, and dances horon, right? This is a stereotype. In America, we have a similar stereotype. In America, people who live generally in southern states, like Mississippi, Louisiana, and Alabama, are called rednecks. So these are some stereotypical pictures of a redneck. So the name comes from people who usually worked in the sun. For example, farmers or construction workers, so their neck would turn red. But nowadays, in popular culture, this has turned into a very big stereotype. So what are some of the things of this stereotype? Usually rednecks, they are uneducated, they're not very healthy, they're missing some teeth, they like guns, they always have a truck or a trailer. There are so many cliches and so many stereotypes for this. Are all of them true? Of course not. Not every redneck, not everyone from these states is like that. You cannot call all of them rednecks. But unfortunately, it is a little true. There are a lot of people in these states who look like that. It's true. So another stereotype I'd like to discuss are jocks and cheerleaders. So we know jocks, they're usually the people who do sports in high school or university, and of course, cheerleaders. So how do we usually see them in movies? Jocks, they're usually very rude and very arrogant and very popular and always very handsome. And same thing for cheerleaders. They're usually very popular, but they only care about their looks, about boys, about flirting, about things like this, right? Now, can we say this is true for all boys who do sports in school, or all girls and boys who join cheerleading? Is this true? Of course not. This is a generalization. Not everyone is like that. It is true for just a small percentage of the jocks and cheerleaders. But again, this is a big generalization. Now, these stereotypes are very funny, but not all stereotypes are funny. Some stereotypes can be very, very hurtful and can harm not only an individual, but an entire community. Now I want to show you some stereotypes about African Americans in America. And yes, unfortunately, racism is still a problem in some states and with many people. So here are some very stereotypical photos. Usually, they think the stereotype is African Americans are good at sports and music. So if you see someone, you think, oh, you'd be good at basketball. Why does this have to be true for all of them? They also believe that they're uneducated. uneducated, they're stupid, they're dumb, which is extremely wrong and rude. Another cliche that we see in lots and lots of films and in popular culture: African Americans, they do drugs, they sell drugs, they're all in gangs. They also believe that they're very violent, right? They're in gangs, they shoot people, they kill people, they don't mind, they're African Americans. And they also believe that a lot of them are poor, right? And less equal. So, do you think all of these things can be true about a race? Do you think it's fair to stereotype a race like this? Of course it's not. And unfortunately, for some people this is the case. For some communities, the African Americans cannot progress because of racism. It's true. Imagine there's an African American neighborhood, and in this neighborhood, the father, because of financial situation, the father commits a small crime. But because of his crime and racism, he is sent to prison for a longer time. Now imagine the family. They're poor. The mother is working 3 jobs. And there's a 12-year-old boy. He has siblings. And he feels responsible. But he can't get a job. He's too young. So when he's introduced to a gang or to drugs or something negative, he is easily influenced, right? What can he do? So I think one of the things that it's not only for them, they cannot change this on their own. And of course this is not true for all African Americans. But one thing we need to do is stop these kind of stereotypes and help each other all together. And this is not just for African Americans, this is for every single race, every single culture. We need to support each other and help each other, or no one can develop. Speaking of African Americans, let's talk about drugs. Marijuana is legal for medical use in 23 states in America. And in Colorado, it is completely legal, with a maximum of 28 grams per individual. All other drugs like heroin, cocaine, ecstasy, anything else is illegal in all 50 states. And now, although it is illegal, it is still a big problem. We can see it in the news with celebrities, and drug overdose problems are still happening in America. But what are they doing to change that? They're doing, education plays a very, very important role. Usually policemen come to schools and they introduce the drugs, they show you all of them, and they terrify you, they scare you. They say, if you do this drug, you will lose your leg, you will lose your eye, you will go crazy, you will die. And it's very scary. I remember when I was young, the police would come to my school every year and do a teaching program about drugs and how to stay away from them. So say no to drugs was the motto. And I remember I was very frightened. Seems like drugs is a terrifying thing. Another thing that's very popular in America are public service announcements. So they would have commercials and posters trying to tell young people the dangers of drugs and also that they should stay away from it. Other than this, unfortunately, drugs and racism are not our only problems. We also have the issue of teenage pregnancy. The United States has one of the highest teen pregnancy rates in the Western industrialized world. 3 in 10 American girls can get pregnant before the age of 20. That's 750,000 people a year. And in Turkey, the number of teenage pregnancies in 2012 was 91,000. The reasons for this are usually considered as peer pressure. So people of the same age and people around them are like, no, it's okay, nothing will happen, come on, you should do it, everyone's doing it, and there's a pressure. Another reason is lack of knowledge. Some girls say that they didn't know they could even get pregnant like that. And glamorization of pregnancy. So some people think that being pregnant is very cool. So if you have a child, it's like, oh, you're pregnant? So in some places it is glamorized. have been reported to be of rape or sexual abuse. And the prevention, just like drugs, is through education. All schools need to have a very healthy and serious sexual education program to educate the youth to overcome this problem. Another problem we Americans have, obesity. Now, for some reason, a lot of people think that all Americans are fat. But as you can see, no, come on. Unfortunately, the obesity rate in America is still too high. Over 30% of adults in America are obese. And in Turkey, this number is 20%. So Turkey needs to be careful too. Nearly 17 of 2 to 19-year-olds are obese. And look at the number, 8% of 2 to 5 are obese. Imagine a little child being obese. So the government is doing some things to help with this. Why are people obese in America? Fast food sector, lack of exercise, same things all around the world. So what the government is doing now is trying to promote exercise and also trying to put some regulations on the fast food industry. So hopefully in the future this will be helping us a little more. And now for the final topic I will be talking about are Turks and Muslims in America. Did you know that Islam is the third largest religion in America? See these green states? Christianity is the number one religion, the most common religion in all 50 states. These are the second largest religions. The green ones are Islam. So in 20 states, Islam is the second largest religion. This seems like it's very, very big, but it's not necessarily that big. Let me explain. Christianity is 70.6%, but 22.8% are unaffiliated, which means they're not tied to any religion. Judaism is 1.9%, and Islam is only 0.9%. But still, it's the third largest. According to a new estimate in 2016, there are 3.3 million Muslims living in the U.S. That is about 1% of the population. It's a big number too. Although there are a lot of Muslim Americans, unfortunately in some small and more, I want to say, ignorant places, there is still Islamophobia. Just like we were talking about with African Americans, imagine a small town where everyone is white, everyone is American, and they have never been to another city or another country in their life. And they don't know any other religion except Christianity. So when they look on the news, and unfortunately on some popular media, in films and things like this, how do they see Muslims? Everyone is wearing a burqa. They're all terrorists. They're all exploding, making the world explode. They're all jihadists, right? So if someone only sees Muslim like this, of course they are going to be racist. They're going to be prejudiced. It's not right, but they don't know. But this is not the case for the general amount of America. There are a lot of Muslims nowadays. And not only that, people are more educated and cultured now. They travel more, so we know a little bit more. For example, my family, my father's part of the family, they had never been to another country before, and they knew nothing about Islam. They're all Christian. My aunt, uncle, and my cousins are Christian. And when my cousin, Laura, was in university, she met a boy from Egypt who was Muslim. She was introduced to Islam, and she decided to convert. So she became a Muslim, and her family is Christian. What do you think? How do you think her family reacted? They're from a country town. So, of course, in the beginning, it's difficult to understand. People are surprised, especially because she's also wearing a headscarf now, too. Why? Because they know now. But there are still many people who do not know, and unfortunately, yes, Islamophobia is a real thing. Now I'd like to talk about some popular groups in America that are Turkish or Muslim. There's a comedy group called The Muslims Are Coming. They have made a film, and they also tour all around America doing comedy shows, trying to decrease Islamophobia, if you will. They're trying to make people understand it more and laugh about it, because they think laughter is the best way to reduce the fear. And here's a poster from their film, and the people in the group, these Muslims these Muslim Americans. They are all from different countries too. They're not only from Middle Eastern countries. Some of them are born and raised in America as well. The Young Turks, they do political podcasts and videos. They've been on television. They're an extremely educated group of Turkish people who discuss politics in America, Turkish American people. And then, this is a group of their cast. And then there's a Turk of America magazine, which is published all around America. And it generally talks about Turkish news, but it's in English, because everyone there is American. And here are some pictures from the magazine and some of the posters. So, in general, what I want to tell you before I finish my talk is the best way to get to know a culture is to go and visit it. But if you don't have the chance, just beware. Social media and popular culture do not show everything in the true way. And some generalizations and stereotypes really hurt people. So you should always question what you see on the news, question what you see in films. Try to learn more, talk with people from that country, and always just be a little skeptical, okay? Be understanding towards everyone.
Can I have a question?
Of course. Perfect timing.
You said that America is a kind of salad. What kind of salad is it? Fruit salad?
It can be any salad you would like.
The question's coming.
Okay?
You said that in America everybody has his own culture. Italian people like Italian people. Chinese people like Chinese people.
What is the connection between them? Anyway, they live in a country, they need a common culture. What are the principles they subject to?
That's interesting. I like that question. So, as I said before, there are Italian Americans, Russian Americans, African Americans, Turkish Americans. Some of these cultures do protect their culture, but not all of them. For example, my ancestors came to America from Ireland, but there's nothing Irish about our family or our culture. So my ancestors have not preserved this culture. Not everyone does. But the one thing that does connect all of them is they don't consider themselves as Italian or Turkish or French or German. They're Turkish American, African American, Asian American. So they all